The real story I wanted to talk about today has absolutely nothing to do with this argument. There's two new spins on the story. The first spin that I have is about The Last of Us 1 remake. It's sold out already. Yeah, so I think it was the PlayStation website or something. They officially put up pre-orders for the limited run deluxe edition of the game called Firefly Edition. $99.99. Not even the $70 version. They put up a limited $100 version. It's sold out in 1 hour. Completely sold out. All right? So it's funny because yesterday we're all talking on the stream, and you know what it is? It's kind of an echo chamber. I know that. My streams are an echo chamber. A lot of people kind of agree with me when I make these kind of points on stream. And a lot of people were of the impression yesterday, wow, this game is not worth $70. Who in their right mind would buy it for $70? And I'm like, yeah, I agree. That's what I feel. Well, apparently a lot of people. A lot of people actually want to pay $100 for it. And I said this yesterday. I said, it doesn't matter what we say. It doesn't matter what we believe. As long as this game has the hype behind it that Last of Us 2 did, it will sell in droves. And I actually feel this will be a bestseller this year. I feel that way. In fact, all of social media yesterday went crazy for it. There was insane amounts of posts, news stories about it. They're covering this like it's a new release. It's not. It's the same fucking game you played on PS3. Literally, it's the same game. But they're acting like it's a brand new game. And I'm like, gaming is just weird. It's just odd. So Grand Theft Auto gets released and re-released and re-released. And now we shit on them. We take big steamy dumps on them, right? There's a new trailer. Oh, Grand Theft Auto 5 is coming out on PlayStation 5. And people go to the trailer on YouTube and they downvote it and they leave big stinky assy code turds in the comments. Oh, you're scraping, you're fucking reselling, you're nickel and diming. Fuck you, Rockstar. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Make Grand Theft Auto 6. Fuck you. Oh, The Last of Us 1 is coming out again for $70 on PS5. Oh, thank you, Mr. Druckmann. Thank you, Druckmann, my Lord and Savior. Thank you so much. We've been waiting to spend more money on Last of Us for 2 years, and we couldn't. Now we can give you more money. I don't know if the reaction could be any further different. And I don't know the difference. I don't get the difference. I'm wondering what the difference is. It's like the same situation. It's the same game. It's going to run better, have a better graphics. Okay, same thing with GTA 5, right? So why shit on one and love the other? I don't know. I shat on GTA 5. I'll shit on The Last of Us. I'll shit on it all when I think it deserves a nice big dump on it. I don't think that this game needs to be remade for PS5 at all. I definitely think it's a cash-in attempt. I think they saw 2 years ago this social movement that they created with Last of Us 2. They have a group of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of fans who will buy whatever they put out right now. They created this group. And now they, 2 years later, said, well, we don't have the multiplayer game ready to sell. Certainly, we don't have a new Last of Us game, and we have nothing in the pipeline. Just resell fucking Last of Us 1 again to make money in the meantime. There was no call to remake Last of Us 1 again. You can play Last of Us 1 right now on your PS4. The remastered edition runs perfectly fine on PS5, and it's the only thing I can say, it's not accessible. That's the one thing I can say. It's not accessible. So if you need the accessibility features and this version adds them in, thumbs up, 100%, I'm on the same page as you. Sounds good. Outside of that, there's absolutely no reason to resell this game in my opinion. Okay? But tons of people don't agree with me. $100 version already sold out. Pre-orders are apparently going insane. People are going to buy the fuck out of this game as if it's a new release. Okay? Although, admittedly, here's the other half of this story. Okay? There was an interesting tidbit of information given out yesterday during Summer Game Fest that a lot of people didn't catch, but I did. And there's actually been a few other people who've caught this and are talking about it today, but people don't want to talk about this side of the story, okay? Neil Druckmann admitted on Summer Game Fest, and he spun it in a positive light. He said, oh, as of now, The Last of Us 2 has sold about 10 million copies, and we couldn't be prouder, okay? Yeah, 10 million copies is great. 10 million copies is a great sales number for any game. No one's going to tell you 10 million copies is not amazing. In fact, that probably ranks amongst some of the biggest selling games of all time if you scale them. However, if you actually look at big picture, meaning take a look at Sony exclusives in the last 5 or so years, okay, that are big budget games, similar to The Last of Us 2, all right, and look at their sales numbers, all right? Now, Last of Us 1, as of today, has sold over 20 million copies. Why? Because it's been out for so long. PS3 it sold, PS4 it sold. It's been selling it like hotcakes. That one's like the number one. It will always be number one. It tops everything. But then if you look at all the other games, Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man, sold over 20 million copies so far. Okay? God of War Ragnarok, sold over 20 million copies so far. Uncharted 4, I think it sold just under 20 million copies. Like it sold initially, and then didn't they sell it again in a collection, bundled with the DLC, and it sold again. So I think that one's like 18 million or something like that, 19 million. All right? All this stuff. And then there's more and more and more and more under, and then you get to The Last of Us 2. I do believe that it ranks among the top 10 Sony exclusives right now in this last like 5-10 years, but it's not even close to the top game. All right? But what's funny is they keep talking about things such as The Last of Us 2, right, is the highest rewarded game ever. It received the most awards of any game. Okay, I guess that means something, you know. I guess it does, you know. Listen, again, if you like the game, good for you. But just because the game got awards doesn't mean that it's like the best game ever made. It also doesn't mean it's the best selling game ever made. Far from it. Other Sony exclusives have sold way more than The Last of Us 2. Okay? In fact, if you compare the sales of Last of Us 2 directly to the budget the game took for developing it, as well as the marketing that went into the game, you could even argue that it wasn't nearly as good of a hit as they probably wanted. All right? Like, they really worked hard to try to make this game feel like it was the feel-good game of 2020. You must play it. You must buy it to stick it to the trolls, social movement behind it, and everything. They did their damnedest. And even then, many other Sony exclusives have beaten it. I forgot Horizon Zero Dawn. I totally forgot. Horizon Zero Dawn also is up there and sold like 20 million or more copies. So you're talking 5, 6, 7 major franchises all above Last of Us 2 in sales, okay? And here's the other thing, too. Again, I will always give credit where credit is due. The Last of Us 2 did a lot of great things. Accessibility, it did a humongous service to the gaming community in accessibility. I say it every time I talk about The Last of Us 2, I say, those features need to be carried over into every major AAA release, okay? They do. They absolutely need to be. That would make the world a better place for gamers in general. It would make so many more games accessible if those were carried over. All right? But for every instance you could say, oh, this was an amazing thing, then these people on social media, they're so insufferable. I'm reading through the post yesterday. Oh, well, Mr. Druckmann admitted that there's a 10 million in sales, so it doesn't matter that people hated on the game. It was still a massive success, and it's the most awarded game ever. Haha, we really stuck it to the trolls and haters. I'm not even kidding you. Haha, we really stuck it to those bigoted people who don't like the game. Those posts, it's 2 years later. They're still saying this. It's not just me talking about it. They still post like it's still going on. It's just like, it's driving me nuts. It's like, oh my, these people don't understand the wool that's been pulled over their goddamn eyes. You know? They can't think for themselves. They can't. They're still in this mindset that because they bought the game and they talked positively about the game, that they were a part of this big feel-good social movement. And they changed the world for the better. It's a fucking video game. It's a product to be sold for profit. You didn't change the fucking world because you played Last of Us 2 and liked it. Like, what are you talking about? These people they're wild things. They think and post. It's out of control. It really is out of control. Listen. All right? I think The Last of Us 2 is a good game. I've told you guys this a million times. And I actually hate having to go back to talk about it over time because it's not a black and white issue. It never is, you know. Just because I didn't like the plot doesn't mean the game was terrible. It wasn't terrible by any means. Every time I was playing the game and it wasn't a story segment that I was groaning at, I actually liked it, you know. And again, when I was sitting there on Super Blind Man stream, seeing the sonar in action, I was blown away. That was like an eye-opening experience for me to see that in action in a video game and seeing how that could change things for the better for so many people around the world, making gaming accessible, you know. I wish I could go back in time. Again, I was talking about going back in time in the DeLorean during my John Howard React event about a week ago, right? Smashing my PC when I was ordering those Project 7 t-shirts. Fuck this. Stop the bullshit. Stop the controversy. You know, I wish I could go back in time and just talk to Mr. Druckmann. Just have a conversation with him. Say, Mr. Druckmann, I really want to talk to you about something, all right? You're about to do something you're going to regret. Because what you're about to do, by falsely advertising your game, which they absolutely did. You can't deny that they didn't. They falsely advertised the game, saying that Joel was going to be like the protagonist again. It's a lie, okay? See, what you're about to do, by creating this shit-stirring situation, you're going to do yourself a disservice. You're about to put out a game, all right, that could change gaming for people all over the world. But you're going to create such a fucking controversy around it for the sake of creating controversy to sell copies that you're going to have this hate group that's going to be formed on the internet. And they're going to be dumb shits. And they're going to troll you. And then what are you going to do? You're going to go into defense mode. And then you're going to make it about you versus them. And then no one will remember the game for what it was. Instead, it's always going to be this stupid discussion about these bigots over here and these fanboys over here. The liberals versus these people. And that's not what the game should be about at all. Okay? It shouldn't. It should be about the game. Let the game speak for itself. It doesn't have to be about the narrative online of these groups fighting or anything. Just cut the shit. Just sell the game for what it is. And when someone asks you about getting hated on because you have, a queer main character in Ellie or a more masculine protagonist in Abby, just shut up. Seriously, just keep your mouth shut. Because whatever you say is going to blow up in your face, and then you're going to create this giant toxic cloud online that you're never going to recover from. It's always going to be about that instead of the game. I wish I could just have a conversation with the dude. Just to say, listen, we got to cut this shit out so we can actually have the game be enjoyed on its own merits. Because right now what I see on the internet is fanboys on one side and haters on the other. We're the rational people. The rational people get drowned out. The rational people can't even be heard because it's always us versus them mentality. It's kind of like American politics right now. You got the super right conservatives and the super liberal left Democrats, you know, and no one can actually like go down the middle and say, let's work together to make the world a better place. Instead, it's fuck you, hate you, hate you. Oh my God, I hate it. I hate politics and I hate this topic. I want to rip my desk off. Straight up on my head. I hate this topic. Why can't we just talk about games, right? Why does it always have to be about this shit? You know? The thing is, like, I can understand, too, why Neil Druckmann did what he did. I get it. I don't think it's right what he did. At the same time, you know, when you're under attack by a bunch of fucking idiots, you go into defense mode. I've done it a million times in my history. You know, I've been doing these reacts, right? To my history as a content creator, looking at my down the rabbit hole, how I used to respond to my haters and shit, and how dumb I was, and the way that I would respond, and it would just cause more problems. You know? You just let the work speak for itself. And then let the people decide. Don't create a narrative around it. And I feel like that narrative, seriously now. So now Last of Us 1 is being remade and coming out. And what's the discourse? Oh, either you love it and you're going to buy it, or you're a hater. What the fuck are you talking about? Just because I'm critical of The Last of Us 1 being remade and sold for $70 doesn't make me a fucking hater. I love The Last of Us 1. I think it's an outstanding game, man.